You're listening to AI Prism from Seoul Economic Daily.
Sony and TSMC just committed 1 trillion yen to a single image sensor line. And in China, 4 of roughly 130 electric vehicle makers are profitable. Beijing paid out more than 100 trillion won, about $71 billion in solar and auto subsidies over 10 years. That capacity is now being pushed offshore as low-priced exports. Korea is moving to waive feasibility review on a semiconductor water project worth over 1 trillion won. It's Tuesday, August 11th. Let's look at a business story shaping corporate Korea. 2 industrial policy models are colliding this month. China spent a decade building manufacturing scale with state money and is now managing the overcapacity that followed. Japan, Taiwan, and Korea are responding with concentrated private capital and faster permitting instead of broad subsidies. Here's what the numbers show. Sony and TSMC will form a joint venture this year, Sony holding about 60% and TSMC about 40%, investing 1 trillion yen, roughly 8.9 trillion won or $6 billion, in next-generation image sensors in Kumamoto, with mass production targeted for 2029. Sony holds roughly 50% of the CMOS image sensor market, a position Samsung's foundry challenged last August by winning iPhone sensor orders. TSMC's July consolidated revenue reached 467.58 billion Taiwan dollars, about 21 trillion won or $15 billion, up 44.7% year-on-year. OECD data show China paid $14.9 billion in solar subsidies and $57.4 billion in auto subsidies from 2015 to 2024, together exceeding 100 trillion won. Guangzhou Automobile guided to a first-half net loss of 4.06 to 4.57 billion yuan, about 900 billion to 1 trillion won, or $640 to $710 million, more than 1.5 times last year's loss. China's 8 largest solar manufacturers accumulated 62.9 billion yuan, roughly 13 trillion won, or $9 billion in losses through September 2025. Chinese steel exports hit a record 131 million tons last year, up 153% from 2020, and 124 anti-dumping petitions have been filed against Chinese goods in Korea since 1987. Korea's government plans to bring a preliminary feasibility exemption for the Southwest Semiconductor Cluster's water infrastructure, a project above 1 trillion won, or $710 million, to a cabinet meeting as early as August 25th. So, what does this mean for executives running Korean operations or Asian supply chains? Earlier, we said subsidized Chinese capacity is being pushed offshore. Here's what that actually means for you. Anti-dumping exposure now belongs in board risk reporting rather than in a trade policy appendix, because 7 of 7 cases currently under investigation in Korea name Chinese producers. On the other side, Korea's willingness to waive feasibility review compresses infrastructure timelines materially, with the dam expansion alone falling from about 10 years to under 4. Watch the cabinet meeting on or after August 25th for the feasibility exemption decision. Watch Korea's Trade Commission for rulings on the 7 active anti-dumping cases. Watch whether Sony secures Japanese government subsidy support for the TSMC joint venture. That's today's AI Prism, CEO. This episode was produced with AI assistance based on Seoul Economic Daily reporting and reviewed by a human editor. AI Prism is a Won IFRA award-winning series. We'll be back tomorrow.
You've been listening to AI Prism from Seoul Economic Daily.